Alright, we're on page 18. After I thoroughly confused everybody last week, washing hands, making blessings, before, afterwards, candle lighting, now we can actually learn a little bit.
That was interesting.
Oh, yeah. Oh. We mentioned there were two reasons for why we wash our hands. The first is because the Kohanim did. In order to get the Kohanim used to it, we made everyone used to it. The second, in order to eat out of cleanliness and purity and holiness, is to be clean, is to be holy. This is something important. V'lo tiknu nitilat yadayim, the second line on page 18. Our rabbis did not institute nitilat yadayim on anything else. Ela lemi she'ochel suda shel pat. Only in a person who eats suda, a meal, shel pat, a bread. Shemevarchim aleha, the kind of bread which you make a blessing on. Birkat hamotzi lechem min haaretz, the hamotzi blessing. Mipnei shentilat yadayim hi mishum serich truma, because washing our hands is related to the truma that we had in the Beit HaMikdash. That's the first reason. V'rov hatruma, and most of the truma that was offered in the Beit HaMikdash, that the offering, the tithes that were given from our produce, ena ba min haTorah ela minei dagan. Biblically, the only things we're really required to tithe in the Beit HaMikdash were our grains. And therefore bread made from grains, as opposed to bread made from rice or corn or something like that. O mishum, or there's another reason. Shesuda shel pat yesh la kviut. Because this is a concept that I'm going to try to explain. That eating bread is an established meal. It's a set meal. Ma she'en ken kshochel chitim uvushalim. Unlike when you eat cooked wheat. Or kshochel perot or shalvim, like barley soup is not the same as eating bread made of barley. It's a different kind of meal. Or even when you eat fruit or other things that we would have offered in the Beit HaMikdash, she'en zederech kviut. You don't eat a whole dinner of apples and oranges. And even if you're stuck in a situation where it's all you have to eat, you still didn't feel like you ate dinner because you ate apples and oranges.
That's true. Raw food vegan.
Okay, that could be.
These days.
But bread is considered, in the words of Chazal, derech kviut, an established meal. And now you may begin to understand another halakha, and that is in the brackets. V'chen tiknu netilah, and that's why our rabbis established netilah, washing of hands, al achilat davar, on eating something, shetibulo b'mashkeh, that has been dipped in a liquid. Do you remember that? Why did they make that rule? Mipnei shehu alul lekabel tumah, because wet food can receive impurity. Ukmo shivar lehalan, like we're going to explain later on. We will explain this. Imagine a little bit that impurity works like electricity. Water is a conductor. And water is also a conductor for tumah. It's for this reason that if you wash your hands for bread, and you dried your hands, and someone says, oh, Shabbat Shalom, and you shake their hands, and your hands are clean because their hands were also clean, you don't have to wash your hands again before you eat bread. But if your hands were still damp from washing your hands, and someone else who did not wash their hands yet for bread shake your hands, that spiritual impurity goes onto your hands through the water, and you go back and wash again. Which is why it's very careful not to shake other people's hands once they've washed their hands. Just leave their hands
I assume then this is a tumah not associated with Beit HaMikdash.
No, it's not exactly that same thing, but it's similar.
Because when you read about the tumah associated with Beit HaMikdash, it's like this garment transfers to this, which transferred to that, to this pot, and you break it.
Right, no, there's a limit to how
you have
far.
to immerse.
Right, there's a limit there. Your hand
amazing
washing,
what
it's not like you touch the chair and someone else sat down, didn't wash their hands, and oh, whoops, now my hands after you wash again. You're right, it's not that extreme.
So you can like the gold hands or not.
But those things are fine. It's just I'm telling another person's hands wet. Your hands have to be wet for that problem. And even then. V'chen, and therefore, lo tiknu netilat yadayim, they did not establish the laws of washing your hands on anything, elek shabbat lechol pat, except for when you come to eat bread. Meaning, when rabbis say they did not establish, it really means they only established washing your hands for when we eat bread. Aval hanogea b'pat, but someone who's just touching bread, not eating bread, just touching bread, he does not have to wash his hands beforehand. So a baker, just because he's in the bakery with bread, doesn't have to do that. It's only when we come to eat, because we're establishing a meal, we're eating that truma. That's when we wash our hands. Bet, this halakha is interesting. I once had a group of Israelis in my parents' house, and one of them, we offered them to come wash your hands for bread, and they're like, no, I already showered today.
What?
Yeah, I'd never heard in her life of people washing their hands for bread. Never.
Does she shower before?
Don't start new chumrot. There's already like only waiting for that to start happening. Sorry, everyone, please put your kiddush cup away. Let's go take showers until we come back for hamotzi.
But if you touch someone's hand, you gotta do it again.
Afilu ein yadav meluchlachot. Even if a person's hands are not dirty, because they just took a shower, they know yodeash nitmeu, and they have no knowledge of their hands becoming impure from anything. Chayav litol yadav kodem shochel tzudah shel pat. Chayav, a person must litol yadav, wash their hands. Kodem shiochal, before they eat tzudah shel pat, a meal of bread. So, if you're gonna eat bread, even if you took a shower, we still wash our hands. On top of page 19.
That includes the pita compound.
What's the pita compound?
When you go to like an Israeli restaurant, they give it to you in a piece of paper.
Yeah, that's a compound.
But there's a lot of places like that.
Right. Maybe that's so that the sauce doesn't drip on your shirt. That's the only halachic thing that can help with.
It may drip the impurity down your shirt.
No, there's such a halakha that if you're in a place where there's no water and you can't wash your hands, then if your hands are covered, you can eat bread. Somehow that then translated into if the bread is covered, you can eat the bread. But that's not accurate, and not all the poskim are on board with that. You can ask them.
You have to wash your pizza. So why would you just having a piece of paper and make any difference? It's your
Technically,
eating
if you were wearing gloves while you were eating pizza, you may not have had to wash your hands. A group of soldiers once asked Rabbi Yosef, what happens if they're in the desert for a week and they just don't have water to wash their hands in the morning? He said, wear gloves, go to sleep. Wake up in the morning, take off your gloves, you don't have to wash your hands, technically.
You can't use things like sand or polystyrene.
You could. I think he was trying to answer a certain kind of question.
But you said before, even if your hands are not dirty or they don't have tumah on them, you still have to wash your bread. So if you put...
Well, Zev dragged us to another part of this conversation, which we're not there yet.
Oh.
You should. So that happened.
Rabbi.
Yes.
So you said does it have to be bread, or can it be like, or could it be like still in grain process? Like, does it have to be made into bread, like baked and everything, or can it be? Still
Yeah.
Okay.
Meaning chamin with just barley is going to be a different blessing than bread, because that's not.
Hadamah, right?
That's a good question.
Oh.
It's a great debate.
Well, barley, if it's made into flour.
Don't drag me into
it's a
the barley
different
conversation now.
Okay.
Zev, you've been a bad influence. On top of page 19. Ulinyanim natal yadav kedin. In regarding the question of if a person really already washed their hands, not in order to eat bread. Let's say he was just washing his hands for cleanliness. He just washed his hands. He came home, he washed his hands. Oh, I want to eat a sandwich. In that situation, we have to discuss with halachot. That's going to be later on. Or also, if a person, let's say you wash your hands to eat a wet apple. Now bread comes. Do you wash your hands again or not? We'll talk about those things. We're now in number 3 and number 25 is when we're going to talk about those things. We have a little bit of time, probably 2 weeks.
Did you say 2 weeks? Nice.
Maybe.
Is it also discussed after
Maybe
Veda
not.
Kisei? After Veda Kisei, does it?
Okay, right. That's a great. Exactly. That's another example, and that probably is the most common case of cleanliness. Washing your hands for cleanliness, but not for bread, is after the bathroom.
And also the different washings, which we covered a few years ago.
Correct.
We have that issue too. Alternate 33.
Okay, what is Pata Baba Kisnin? That's what I want to read to you now. This is actually from the Shulchan Aruch. It could be the Mishnah elaborated. This is in Kuf Nun Chet. You can actually read along with me if you want. I think. Where does it go up to? Yeah, it's the last siman in this book. Kuf Nun Chet. I'll tell you which page it's going to be on. Vav. Here, page 423. Pat haba b'kisnin. Do you see that? Top left.
Yeah.
Bread that comes with pockets, literally. But let's translate it. Let's just say pat haba b'kisnin. That's the word I'm going to use. Nevarech alav borei minei mezonot. You say the blessing of borei minei mezonot beforehand. So is it bread?
No.
No. Ulacharav bracha me'en shalosh. And afterwards you say the blessing of me'en shalosh. What is me'en shalosh?
It's the blessing of the 3 types of food.
Yeah, which is what we call it today. Al Mechia. Yeah, Al Mechia. It's a short blessing we make after we eat cookies, cakes, those things. Ve'im achal mimeno shi'ur she'acherim regilim likvoa alav. But if he eats enough of it that other people would make that their meal, af al pi shu lo seveh mimeno, even though he's still hungry, I mean that's not enough for him. Mivarech alav hamotzi. He makes a hamotzi on this food, uverkat hamazon, and blessing after meals.
So that kind of contradicts the chalta v'savakta. You should even be satisfied and blessed.
Correct. Though our rabbis already say that to eat and satisfied and bless, I mean you only need to bless if you're satisfied. That's the biblical requirement. But the rabbinic requirement is so long as you eat more than a small amount, you have to make the blessing anyways. Yeah, it's a different. I mean, very good. It changes something from a biblical to a rabbinic mitzvah. Let's say you plan to eat from this kind of bread food a little bit. That's why you made a mezonot. But now you've eaten so much that it would be considered like the second case, where a lot of people would consider that a meal. You say Birkat HaMazon afterwards, the grace after meal. Even though you didn't say Hamotzi beforehand. So if you were ever in a Jewish trivia game, and they said, which kind of food is sometimes a Mizonot and sometimes a Hamotzi, and if you would have started a Mizonot, but you would have actually ended up with Birkat HaMazon, which food? You would say, Pat Baba Kiskin, Kuf Samachet, Halacha Vav. That's what you would say, right?
Should they
mature?
No, it's just good to have that kind of memory, kind of sharpness.
Yeah, but
Rabbanim who do have that.
Yeah, for sure.
They could
The
say,
bread.
right here, boom, boom, in this book.
What's a bread with pockets?
I'm all right. Okay, we're talking about.
How rally are you?
We're talking about mystery bread. Basically, now this is a mystery bread for us. I'm gonna explain to you. Yeah.
Sopapilla?
Why is bread with
Nobody knows
pockets
what we're talking about.
bread? Only you.
So let's understand what that word means. That's in the next halakha. I'm just telling you the status. Really, it should have been written the other way around, or I should have read it the other way around. But I'm reading it this way. And even though you eat an amount that other people would not consider that a meal, but for you that's enough food. You don't make a blessing of hamotzi and birkat hamazon, because even though for you that's a meal, it's not what other people would consider a meal. And therefore you just say mezonot and al michya. Devatla da'ato etzel kol adam. Because his dat, his opinion, is nullified compared to everyone else's. Example, this is an important halakha. When is halakha subjective versus when is halakha objective? What is the blessing on a lemon according to many poskim? You would think it's like an orange. Ha'etz, right?
Goes on.
It's how they
How many people aside from my wife eat lemons like they eat oranges?
What's in there?
Your mom does? My wife does.
Not a lot of people though.
If they're Meyer lemons, you can
They
eat.
usually
Yeah.
cut them.
Right.
They usually cut them though.
People normally cut lemons, squeeze a little bit on their salad or on their fish or something, but it's not the kind of fruit you go to like a fruit platter. There's melon, watermelon, lemons.
lemons.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's more.
I
like
mean,
a garnish.
if you ever go somewhere and that's what they serve you in the fruit platter, realize it's a subtle hint of like, go home, we don't want you here. That's essentially what they're trying to tell you. I was actually once in a Persian house, and
Lemons,
I'll say the truth, I had
lime,
no
lemons.
idea that this was part of the Persian Jewish culture. And they bring out a beautiful tray of like different fruits, vegetables, and then it had nana leaves, mint leaves there. And I'm waiting for to bring out the hot water, so I can make tea. There's no hot water coming. I'm like, I just remember telling my friend, am I gonna be able to use it for tea, or is it just gonna sit there for decoration? It's just tea. What are you talking about? I said the mint leaves. I said, mint leaves, that's for eating. What? Now, Moroccan Jews, we use mint all the time, and drinking is normally what you use it for. You put it in hot water and drink it as tea. Chewing on stalks of mint leaves is like blasphemous, almost. Like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? And Arabs, certain Arabic cultures do that. For example, in our tabbouleh salad, we have mint leaves, right? But that's not a normal thing for North African Jewry. That's other Jews do that. And so it was the first time I almost felt like they brought out. Imagine someone bringing out tea bags for you to have tea and not actually bringing you any cups of hot water. Like at a certain point, it's like maybe I'm inconveniencing my hosts, right? Sometimes you just have to be familiar with the culture. So lemons, many poskim say that you make a blessing of shakol niyabit because it's not really a food. The reason, because most people don't eat it that way. Oh, what about me? But I do eat it that way. But that was a kol adam. You're not the majority here. You're a minority, and halakha in this instance follows. It's a objective halakha, not a subjective halakha. Now, could that change? It could change, which is interesting. I'm not going to talk to you all about this now, but there are some vegetables which, because people don't eat them raw, if you were to eat them raw, you would make a shakol niyabit. But if you were to cook them the way you normally would eat it, then the blessing changes to borei pri ha'adama. And don't get so confused. Look at me like I just fell off the moon, because you have other foods in your arsenal that change blessings. Grapes, when you eat them, you say borei pri ha'etz, but when you drink them, you say borei pri ha'gefen.
They're really different.
Winter squash, for example.
Yeah.
It's like, would say out the raw, and then you're supposed to raw.
A raw winter squash. That's a good example for that.
Because most people don't
Your
know,
example
some
of
people
cooked barley or wheat, cooked like that, it's not the same blessing as turned into bread. In fact, the Sephardic poskim differentiate so much as a rice cake. What bracha do you make on rice? Nobody tell me hamotzi, because whoever's been spreading that opinion around the Jewish community has been doing a disservice.
I say hadama.
Rice,
Right?
Mizunot before, shakol after.
mizonot before, and borei nefashot afterwards.
I mean,
Amazing you meant.
Wait, is that rice cakes or all rice products?
Rice, cooked rice, is the only food that I know of which you make a borei mini mizonot beforehand, but the after blessing you make on it is not for grains. It's for like anything else, like fish, chicken, water. It's a borei nefashot.
is that also for Ashkenaz?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Now, what happens if you make rice, but not the way people normally eat rice? For example, instead of cooking your rice, you pop your rice or puff your rice.
Yeah.
Our rabbis, not all rabbis, but for example, many Sephardic poskim believe that's not the normal way to eat rice. And you can argue, so what defines normal? I mean, today a lot of people eat rice cakes. Maybe that it means it's not the way that, at least halachically, rice is
They didn't have technology for that until
intended
the
to be
last
cooked.
20, 30 years.
And therefore, the poskim say that rice should be made. The blessing you make on that rice cake is borei pri ha'adama, because you're making a blessing on it as it in its vegetable form before it becomes its grain form.
So we do that for puffed wheat and puffed rice in the morning? For serving?
Probably, and those poskim would do the same thing. In terms of, you see this in some other things that, and by the way, this is what this whole book is about, the laws of brachot. So we're going to get into these discussions. I just wanted, so now we have to figure out, what is this mystery bread? This patababikis thing. What is it?
I thought you said it's an opinion about how much a person needs to eat a little bit, then you do one thing, if you eat a lot, then you do another thing. But how do you know what the majority is? I mean, maybe some people eat like that, some people eat like that, and that's enough for me.
That's a great question. And these things change, by the way. I read an article about McDonald's that many years ago, the family size soda cup at McDonald's was 20 ounces. The family size for the whole family to share of soda at McDonald's was 20 ounces,
Wow.
which is, how much is this? 16? So it's like a little bigger than this bottle.
Oh wow.
Today,
Now you got the big
walk into 7-Eleven and get yourself, they have
44 ounce.
big gulp, super big gulp,
Super size.
super huge, extra big gulp.
Are you
You
serious?
can, yeah, sure, you can
People
walk
want
out for like $2 with, it's more soda that's even in a bottle of soda. Yeah.
What?
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Wash a dog in it.
Probably. No, meaning,
Clean out
so
your
some
radiator
things
with it.
change, right? Like what, how people drink, and that's not the family size. That's the individual size.
I need to get. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a jerry can. It's like soon you're filling up over there with a. I actually saw a picture. Unfortunately, it was a Jewish person, but they have in 7-Eleven on June 11th. 7-Eleven gives out free Slurpees, whatever container you have. So somebody brought one of those
Oh man.
sparklets. You know the things we have water in.
Oh, no.
They brought one of those and
5
filled it up
gallons.
with
5 gallons?
Slurpee. 5 gallons of Slurpee.
That doesn't keep well.
I'll tell you, when 7-Eleven put out that rule, they probably had no idea Jews were going to read it the way Jews read things. Any size container that we have, you're lucky they couldn't bring the mikveh with them.
Is there a bracha for a chazarai?
You just go share with everybody.
That's a great question. If you eat treif, what's the bracha on it? Probably
Well, I
not.
was thinking about the slurps, but
Oh.
that is brave in a way.
That's how you know he never drinks when he.
Sure.
Yeah.
Raparis, for example, doesn't like let people make blessings on Coca-Cola.
What?
He says you're not allowed to
You
drink
could be
it.
drinking it.
I don't
Oh,
know.
That's why it's,
good for him.
If you harm your body, you know, you're not supposed to. You're breaking the law.
Right, well, that's a famous question if there's a blessing you make on cigarettes, by the way.
Oh,
The poskim of old dealt with this question. But now I want to talk to you about my mystery bread. I know it's much more exciting than 5 gallons of Slurpee.
We have a few guesses. You were saying a calzone.
Oh, very good. Wait.
Ravioli.
Page 433. 433. We're skipping to the next halakha.
So, yeah.
Some of these stuff.
Finish.
433.
There's an
Four,
Indian
three,
bread that you wrap around.
Huh?
There's an Indian bread, of course, chapati.
yeah.
Jack, do you have an English translation here?
Unfortunately, I don't have that far ahead. I didn't know you were jumping ahead like that.
I didn't know I was jumping ahead either. That's the truth.
I got
So it's
the
not your fault.
translation for the other stuff that we were talking about.
Okay, so you follow along with me in Zion. Pat Abba Kisnin. Maran is going to bring down a few opinions here. The first opinion he brings is the opinion of Rabbeinu Hananel, the Aroch, the Tur, and the Rashba. These rabbis are all the opinion. What is Pat Abba Kisnin? Yesh Mefarshim, some explain. Pat Sha'asui, bread that is made, Kimin Kisim, with pockets. Shememaleim otam, that they fill them up with dvash, honey, or what's the next word?
Sugar,
Sukar, sugar.
Oh wow.
but different kind of sugar.
Sounds like Spanish.
Ve'egozim,
Piloncillo type.
and nuts, like walnuts, ushkedim, and almonds, ve'tavlin, or other spices. Vehem hanikarim, and this is what is called, I don't know if Maran here is quoting Spanish or I don't know which language, riscolas realso. I don't know how to read this word because Maran doesn't give us even the vowels for it.
Really quick, can you say what this bread is again?
Yes, it's bread that's baked with pockets to
No,
insert.
I know, but what is it called? How do you say it in Hebrew?
Pat
Pat.
with an a, not an a.
Uh,
So not pot. Haba'a
Haba'a.
bechisanim.
Besima. Say that one more time.
Chisanim.
Pat haba bechisanin. In all my years of Ashkenaz yeshiva, they say pat haba bekisne. So I just say kisnin, but it's clearly incorrect. So
It's like a pastry then, rather than actual.
well, that's the first opinion. It's some kind of dough that you like fill it up. Imagine like a croissant that they put nuts inside of, or cinnamon and the spices.
strudel.
A strudel, okay. Meaning, technically that dough is bread dough. but
Danish, as they call it.
Yeah,
but
Danish.
you're filling it up with things that are really making it not bread.
Yeah, so
At
like
least-
so we said too, like calzone or something.
This halakha yishno is a disaster for anybody who ever uses any modern Ashkenazi challah recipes.
Halva?
Challah recipes.
Oh, halva.
Because they put
Why do I say
Oh,
Ashkenazi? Because not traditionally, but like today there's this
Raisins,
culture.
eggs,
I was in the Upper
sugar.
West Side. They had marshmallow fluff and chocolate swirl challah.
Oh.
Like in between the braids, there were marshmallows and chocolate chips. You can get challah today that is like cinnamon brown sugar challah. Tell me the difference. What's the difference between that and a babka cake? So why on babka do you make boim and imzanot, but you feel that this challah, just because the bag says challah, you can actually use for your Friday night dinner? That's the question Malan is trying to get to here. Meaning, what is the line between bread and cakes? V'yesh omrim, there's a second opinion. And this is the opinion of the Rambam. Oh Rambam, why do you always have to be alone? Notice the first one had like 5 people together, and this one's like Rambam. V'yesh omrim, some say, shehi isa. What is isa? Dough.
Where are you?
Where is he?
In third
Hisav?
line.
Oh, Hisav, third line?
Well,
Yeah, my Shulchan Aruch says omrim, this one says mefarshim. It's okay. V'yesh mefarshim shehi isa. Do you see that third line over there?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Third line on page 433.
Above the...
Above the line.
oh, we saw here that's dough.
Yeah, some say that is dough. She'erav badvash, which they've mixed into the dough honey, or shemen, or oil, or chalav, or milk, or minei tavlin, or any kind of spices. Va'afa'a, and they baked them. Okay, here's gonna get very tricky. You're gonna learn very quickly that you're gonna bump into Sfaradim on the street who tell you, "Oh, does that challah have oil in it? Does it have eggs? Does it have sugar? Does it have salt?" Sorry, we make a boim and mizonot on this.
Make what?
They make a mizonot on such
There's
bread.
an-
Now the truth is that all the traditional Sephardic challah recipes, they don't have sugar for sure. They also don't have eggs for sure. It is just flour, water. There are times where there's yeast and things.
No
Salt,
oil?
yes.
No oil?
It really depends where you're going.
Originally, all
Which
bread
color?
was made
Yeah.
with
That's what I
natural
was
starter,
thinking.
not with commercial yeast.
Commercial yeast.
This is a new thing.
Well,
Oh,
I will argue too
Sourdough.
that not all Sephardic breads even had yeast in the first place.
Right.
It's a lot of flat breads.
Right.
It's just doughs that are cooked on taboons and things like that.
You
Tortillas.
So a lot of people back then weren't using the traditional challah we have either, though. They were using.
Yeah, they weren't using with the braids.
Are we gonna have this conversation now?
Huh?
We're gonna have a challah conversation now.
Halva. Competition?
Challah
Conversation.
is not a Jewish
Conversation.
bread. You know that.
Oh.
Everyone here must know this.
What?
No.
I believe it.
Well, everybody probably doesn't, but what?
Okay, so now we'll let
First of
everyone
all, you
know.
pick it up and
The
wait
word
2
challah
ounces.
does not refer to the nice
all air.
braided
It's
bread that
the
Jews eat. That is not challah. And challah is any bread that you use in the Jewish family. And if you would go to Baghdad, they probably call pitas challah. Challah is a word used for any bread that we're eating on Shabbat.
Thank you.
Why? Because when you make a certain amount of dough, you take challah off of it. It's actually kind of funny why we call, what's the actual challah? It's the dough you take off, not the dough that's left. Why they call that dough challah? You're not allowed to eat challah. Challah is the one kind of bread that Jews are allowed to eat.
Have to burn it, right?
It's a strange thing how the bread that we do eat is called the name of the bread that we're not
Yeah.
allowed to eat. But this part of Jewish history, I don't even stand a chance of fixing. What I do stand a chance of fixing is explaining the origins of challah. Braided bread. Google it. When did people start braiding bread? The Christians of Germany
Right.
became experts in bread braiding. Until today, the Germans are famous for 6 braids and 3 braids and 4 braids and round braids and square braids and oval braids. And braiding bread is 100% German, non-Jewish culture. Listen, the fad in the world now is to make braided breads in the 1300s. So Jews say, "Hey, why not? Rabbi, are we allowed to use this bread?" Sure, why not? Take it. All of a sudden, Jews, we stole the copyright. We've been selling braided bread. This is what Jews have had for thousands of years. Literally 1,000 years ago, you would walk into a Jewish community with a challah roll in Poland,
We should have turned
and they would ask you, what is that? Where did you get that from?
We should have
They
turned
wouldn't know what it is. What?
We should have turned the camera off for that one.
Well,
Don't worry, no kosher bakers.
It's for this reason when you read the writings of the Arizal, and the Arizal says you have to stack 6 challahs on top of 6 challahs. That's the way you do hamutzi on Friday night. The Arizal, isn't that what you think is crazy? It's like, you know, 6. I saw once a Hasidic Rebbe was hugging his challahs like this. They're holding them, so they don't fall off the table. You know, when you say 6 challah on 6 challah, imagine taking. I did this in Jerusalem every Shabbat because in my house in Jerusalem we never use challah.
no?
Only pitas and lafas and fresh baked from the shukah an hour before Shabbat. You'd stack pitas this big.
Mm-hmm.
You know how easy it is to stack pitas? 12? That's a joke. You could stack like 40 pitas on top of each other. Says Maran, and Maran, this is not what the Rambam actually says, this is the way Maran reads the Rambam. V'hu shiyah tam ta'arovet hamei pirot o atavlin nikar beisa. You have to be able to taste the taste of the additional things in the dough when you're eating the bread. So there's this whole thing where if you make bread with apple juice, then the blessing is borei minim zonot, because we use some kind of juice. It's not water, and that's why when you fly to Israel, the little rolls they give you are labeled. The blessing is borei minim zonot. It's not accurate, because I would challenge a person to taste that bread and see if they taste the apple juice. Just because it's there doesn't make it borei minim zonot. It has to taste like apple juice bread in order for it to be demoted to the status of not real bread. Now the Ramah jumps in here, and this is the Ashkenazi opinion, which is prevalent, Baruch Hashem, in the Jewish world today. V'yesh omrim, and some say, who was the V'yesh omrim? Oh, look at that, I am familiar. V'yesh omrim, and some say, שזה נקרא פת גמור, that this is complete bread. אלא אם כן יש בהם הרבה תבלין ודבש. Unless there's a lot of spices and honey. כי מיני מתיקה, like some kind of sweet cake. שקוראים, that they call, someone read that word for me, it's a Yiddish word. No, in the end of the Rashi. Lekach, you see this? Lekach?
Lekach is honey bread.
Very good. Honey cake, that's what
the
they
Rebbe
give.
used to give it out.
The Ashkenazi community calls honey bread lekach. Meaning, you have to have enough honey in your challah that it has to taste like honey cake. And he continues, he says, Shekimat hadvash v'atavlin hemikar. Almost like the honey and the spices in that cake and that bread are the main part of the bread, not the bread. V'chein nohagim, and this is the custom in Ashkenaz. And then he says here, there's an opinion that says that this is the way to read the Rambam correctly. And you should know, I'm going to give off the cuff. It's going to make this, I know there's some people who watch these videos and they're like die-hard Sfaradim. Sorry to apologize to you here. Harav Peretz reads the Rambam like the Ramah. It's a rare situation here. Which really, the only time we make mizonot on mizonot bread is if it really tastes like cake. I always tell, my wife calls me up, is this mizonot? I say, taste it. If you would serve this in our house as dessert, then you can make a mizonot.
So when you taste it, what do you say before you taste it?
Very good. You could probably taste a little bit without a bracha to figure out which bracha to make. That's a good question. And then the last opinion, v'yesh mefarshim shehu pat. Some say that it's bread. Ben metubelet, ben she'ena metubelet. Whether it's seasoned or not seasoned. שעושים אותם כאבים יבשים וכוססים אותם. The Mishnah Berurah says that they're called that in Arabic, but in Spanish they're called, I don't even know what that means. Boshkigos?
Tosquitos.
Okay.
Bizcochitos?
Okay, very good. Basically, it's some kind of bread that is baked for long until it becomes like a cracker almost. It dries up in the oven. So it's regular bread, but it's turned into a cracker. That's essentially how you would understand this. Okay?
I think it's biscotte.
Oh, like a biscuit.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Coke, you said it has a gimel. That's why it's.
By the way, but you should know that the Gimel and the Nun, some of the letters, the way Maran pronounced the letters may be in a different accent slightly than we do. It could also be that Spanish in the Spain of Maran in the 1400s also pronounced certain words differently than we would pronounce them in Spanish today. That's V'halacha. So what is the halacha? So which of these opinions is correct? Says Maran. You'll be so mad right now. Get ready to be mad. Kidivrei kulam. All of them are right.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Shelechol elu advarim, that all of these different foods, notim lehem dinim she'amarnu b'pat haba b'kisnin. All the laws of pat haba b'kisnin apply to these breads. So, if it's a cracker bread, if it's a honey bread, if it's a bread that has nuts and almonds and sugar and spices in them, all of those foods would be a mizanot if you eat them, and an ala michya afterwards. Unless you're eating a lot of it, it's considered like that's what you're eating lunch. What is not for you, but that's what other people would consider, and there's a number for that, a measurement for that, and then it becomes hamotzi and birkat hamazon. If you started with mizanot because you only plan to eat one piece, oh, that's good, and you finish the whole pan, then you have to do birkat hamazon afterwards. But understand very carefully now the ramifications of this. If you're sitting at Rosh Hashanah afternoon, and someone brings out a pan of honey cake, and you take a little bit, and you say Borei min hamazonot, and then you eat half that pan, you actually would have to do birkat hamazon afterwards.
Because you've been satisfied?
Because that was like, you just sat down for a meal.
Yeah, okay.
And people don't know this halakha. Because the number is actually not half a pan. We'll talk about that when we get here. We will get here very soon, actually. But this halakha will tell you that if you see that guy at Kiddush and he's like eating all the cookies off the cookie platter, and all the cakes and all the croissants and all that, he actually had to have made a hamotzi when he started eating that.
Wait, but he didn't know he was going to eat that many cookies. They snuck
Probably
up on
did
you.
because he did it last week too. And if you look at the way he looks, probably he did it the week before also. Yeah, this is the kind of, it's a personality, you know that guy. It's the guy that when he stands in front of you by the fish plate, you know that there's not going to be anything left for you afterwards. It's that kind of person. There's nothing you can do about it.
Take the last cookie.
Yeah. It's like when he asks, like, can you pass the chamin? And you hope it goes around one side of the table and not the other side, because you know if it goes down the other side, you're going to be wiping up the challah off the bottom of the plate. It's nothing you can do. It's the world that you live in. Angel, I'll take your question before I end the class.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were telling me. Wait.
Lost it. There we go.
Sorry, I'm laughing at the last thing still. I had another question, but I can't remember it now. But this one I remember, and I'm not trying. Like, I hope it doesn't come off like, why would we do? Like, what's the big deal? It's more like really, like, why are people so careful on like what blessings to make for which things? Does it have to do with like saying Hashem's name in vain if you say for the wrong thing? And if so, like, if that's the reason too, like then. I don't know, it seems like pretty strict.
The question you're asking now is, why do we make blessings in the first place? Really?
No.
Really, the answer to your question is going to lie in the answer to that question.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just like wondering, like, why it's so strict?
Well,
Like, why can't it just be a general
what's the big
food
deal?
question?
What's the big deal if we make the wrong blessing on food? Is that?
No, it's just like, why can't it just be a general, like, I'm eating food, like question, or I mean, blessing? You know, why does it have to be so specific?
Very good. Why can't that just be a blessing we make before we eat food, as opposed to about every specific kind of food?
Right.
Our rabbis talk about this, and there are generic blessings you can make on food. Like you could say Shakol Ni'avdevol, everything was created in His Word. You can say that on anything that you don't know the bracha for. And the reason our rabbi is actually in the Masechet Brachot, I believe it's in the 6th chapter, but don't hold me to it. It could be the 7th. I believe it's the 6th. Our rabbi 6th, in the beginning of the 6th. Our rabbis, they write over there that we're trying to serve Hashem as specifically as possible. You could thank Hashem, rub it up, thanks for the grub. You can do that before you eat your meal. But it would be much better, Hashem, thank you for creating this bread for me. Thank you for creating this vegetable for me.
Let's refine it.
You're coming down to narrowing down exactly what you're thanking Hashem for. And we see a lot of value in that. It's funny because as much as we'll talk about, don't get caught up in the details, we give a lot of value to details. And there's a reason for that. Why? We're going to talk a lot about brachot now. And what happens if you do make the wrong bracha on a food, and what's the situation then? And perhaps the mashal that I could best give is one Rabbi Peretz gave me when I asked a similar question. He said there were two guys that got engaged to their wives and their fiancés, I guess, and they bought them a gift. Each of them had $100. And the first guy goes to the jeweler, and they're supposed to buy your wife a watch or something like that. Why? Because we don't buy a ring. Why? Because we'll get married with rings. It's the halakha, not halakha. It's a custom. So they go to the jewelry store and say, I need to buy a watch. I only have $100. Now I'm assuming today you can't buy any watch with $100. So I just imagine that that's a significant amount of money. And so the guy said, well, for $100, I can give you a $100 watch.
Timex.
The guy said, well, what about the box that you put the watch in? The fancy jewelry box? Well, that's another $10. I don't have $10. So, buy a $90 watch. And then put it in a box. So what about tax? Okay, so buy a $60 watch, put it in a thing, buy a gift bag, and add a gift card to it. Fine? That's what he does. The first guy buys a $60 watch, and he buys a gift card. And the second guy shows up, and he comes to the store and says, I only have $100 to buy a watch. What's the nicest watch you have? He says, well, there's a $100 watch. And he says, well, I want to get her something nicer than that. He says, how much money do you have? He says, well, and I have some money in the savings. He ends up buying her a $350 watch. He went all out. The money he was going to spend on his friend's birthday and the money he took all that and got his fiancée a watch. But now comes checkout time, and he doesn't have money to buy the box, or the gift bag, or the gift card. And so he says, listen, what do you have? The guy says, I have some wrapping paper, not wrapping paper, I have some newspaper. You want to just wrap it up in newspaper? I'll tape it up nicely for you. He takes the $350 watch and wraps it up in a newspaper and he just folds the edges, creases it, folds it, looks professional New York Times. And he takes this gift, and they both go to their fiancés, and one hands her a $60 watch with a gift card and a bag, and the other one hands her a very expensive watch wrapped in a newspaper. And the first one looks at the newspaper, that's what you got me, smacks him across the face, throws him out the front door. And the second one, she reads the card, she's so touched, she took the time to write it on a card for her. She's the watch. It's not the kind of watch you would pick out, but it was the effort, it was the box, it was the gift. Clearly he put a lot of effort into this gift. And that's why, the first fiance was incorrect for slapping him across the face and just throwing him out. But it's a natural human reaction that the details count. It makes a difference. It makes a difference when it's not the guy his wife says, how come you never say I love you? I told you I love you on our wedding night, and if that changes, I'll let you know. Why do I have to tell you all the time? That's nice, because technically that's right. But that detail, that extra step you go all the time, our rabbis are trying to train us in this mode of, don't forget the big picture, because that's important. You still have to buy the watch, right? But there's value to the little things that you do around. There's value to the details. And sometimes we'll make fun of those details because the people who get caught up in them very often forget the whole, why are we buying a watch in the first place? Because we're trying to connect to our fiancé, we're trying to connect to Hashem, so what are you getting caught up with the wrapping paper for? But then there are people who are trying to connect to Hashem, and they're using the details to connect to Hashem. That's not a laughing matter, that's a serious form of service of Hashem. And Hashem should help us find the details without losing the greater picture.
Baruch.